Hello friends, welcome to my channel Creating Essence. I am Megan. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by, and if you're a returning visitor, thank you so much for coming back. It's got a little gust there. I don't know if you guys got drowned out by wind. Sorry about that. I wanted to share something pretty personal with you today. In case you didn't know, October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And that is something that is very near and dear to my heart, because not only am I someone who is professionally trained in the specialty of bereavement doula, which means I walk through families facing loss during all trimesters of pregnancy, after birth, and just when things aren't quite going right. I'm trained in the specialties of the NICU as well, in case babies have a diagnosis that is not necessarily terminal, but does mean they will be born very sick. I am just a regularly certified birth doula as well, but I do have that second certification as someone specially trained to help families facing loss. And the reason that I sought out that certification is because I have lost a child as well. I have written extensively on my blog about my loss, and I will link that below in the info box in case you want to check it out. That is a lot more detailed and raw, and I wrote a lot along my journey through my healing as well, and dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder as well as complex grief in the aftermath of losing our son during the second trimester of pregnancy. So if you would like to see that, that will be linked below. Really just the first post where it all started, and at the bottom of each post there's a link to go to the next one, and they all kind of link into each other in case you wanted to read the details. But today I just wanted to tell you my story and why Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month is so important to me. I personally am a rainbow. That means I was born after the loss of a child. My brother was born at 36 weeks gestation. He was a very large preemie, but he was still a preemie because his vital organs were immature and unable to properly support his body. And what is now very treatable with a shot of surfactant to the newborn, back then was called hyaline membrane disease, and my brother lived for 2 days before he died. And I was born 16 months later, and I feel like I kind of always have had that in my spirit. I've always been very connected in a way I couldn't explain to friends and family members who experienced loss. And it just was always something that I can't explain. It really struck me deeply in my spirit when someone I knew was facing loss. And then, let's see, in November 2014, we had at that time 4 kids, and our youngest was 1.5. We found out very unexpectedly that we were pregnant again, and we were very excited, and we just had this feeling in our hearts. And if you go to my blog and read, you'll see that we posted about finding out that we were pregnant the very day we found out we were pregnant, and people thought that was very strange. They expect most people to wait, not 4.5 weeks pregnant, announcing that you're pregnant. And we had waited in the past for various reasons, not out of fear of loss, more like a family member was pregnant and about to have a baby or something, and we just wanted them to have the spotlight. And so we waited and enjoyed it just privately to ourselves for a while. But we felt really, really strongly like we were supposed to share right away that we were expecting again. So we did. And I had a very difficult pregnancy the first trimester, which is not abnormal for me at all. I tend to have hyperemesis gravidarum, which is a profound degree of morning sickness where you are horribly sick round the clock, cannot keep any fluid down, cannot keep any food down. None of those tricks work, nothing. The only thing that ever helped me when I had hyperemesis was a medication called Zofran, which was created for patients dealing with chemotherapy, which makes it so their body is almost unable to get sick. So you still feel really horribly sick, but you can't actually empty your stomach. So your body will keep some nutrients in. So you feel horrible, but like with my fourth, by the time I was 7 weeks pregnant, I was in kidney failure because of the chronic, just terrible degree of dehydration. So Zofran has terrible side effects and you feel awful, but it does save lives. And so I had really bad hyperemesis with him. But other than that, the pregnancy was perfectly normal. We felt really strongly with all of our other kids. We kind of mulled over names for a boy and a girl, but for him, we felt that we felt very strongly, like only one name reverberated in our heads, and that was Asher Joel. And Asher is Hebrew and means blessed and happy. And it just felt so perfect because it was such an unexpected surprise. And we were so happy. I mean, I wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. And here I was pregnant with my fifth. It was really amazing. And it just felt like the perfect name for him. We were blessed and we were so happy. And Joel means Jehovah is God. And that name would make a lot more sense down the road, but it just was a beautiful name that went well with Asher to us and had a great meaning. And so aside from the hyperemesis, everything was going well. And then we went for a routine checkup in the second trimester. But the night before, I had a dream that we went to the appointment and there was no heartbeat. And I just woke up, and I didn't tell my husband that, but I just was like, you know what? You and the kids can just stay home. Like, just stay home with the kids. It's fine. You know, it'll be a quick appointment, very routine. I'll be back. And he just, he was really insistent that he felt like he needed to go. So we went and had the usual checkup, and everything seemed fine. And then at the very end, she went to measure, you know, the uterus height to check for growth and check for a heartbeat. And she couldn't find a heartbeat. And she's like, oh, you probably just have, you know, the placenta on the front, so the baby still at the sides is harder to find. So let's just hop across the hall to the ultrasound room and take a look at this stubborn little baby. And I've had enough ultrasounds to know that pretty quickly the baby was a lot smaller than he should be, and he wasn't moving. And she really tried intently to get different angles on the baby for a while before she finally said, she put the wand down and she said, I'm going to go grab Jean, who was another midwife in the practice. She said, she's really, like, she's specially trained with ultrasounds, so she'll do better at this. And I just looked at her and I just gave her a look like I knew. And she met my eyes and she took my hands and she said, he's really small. And I said, I know, I had a dream. And it was one of the hardest moments of our lives to be told, like, your baby's not alive. And it's hard to explain, like that moment when someone tells you that your baby has died. No matter how big or small your baby is, and no matter how long you've known that you're pregnant, it is just crushing. And yeah, so Jean came in and found the same, and then they took me down the hall to an obstetrical practice where the specialist took a look and he confirmed, the baby was physically developed quite a bit more. So we pretty much knew even though he was small, it was because he had probably been struggling to grow for a while. And eventually, whatever he was dealing with just became too much for his vital systems, and he died. So we talked to the midwife and the obstetrician about our options, and we decided to go home and wait because my placenta and things in utero were showing signs that that the baby would probably be born soon on its own anyway. So we went home and we waited and we told our kids, and that was terribly hard. And I write about all of this in detail in my blogs if you would like to see them. But it is very difficult. And after a week, my body still hadn't gone into labor. So we went back for another checkup with the obstetrician. The midwives were wonderful, but they aren't specially trained to deal with those things. And when situations become complicated, the obstetricians that they're in partnership take over. So I went for an appointment with the obstetrician who did another ultrasound, and they found that not only had my body not gone into labor, but it seemed that my placenta had grown enormously, and they weren't sure if it was just placenta or if it was a tumor, something like choriocarcinoma. And whatever it was had a very healthy blood supply that they could see on the screen. So we decided, instead of inducing labor, a surgical birth would be the safest. So the next day I went back and I had a D&E, which is a dilation and evacuation. And it was so difficult. And not only because I felt like my body had failed to grow my baby, but it also had failed to be able to birth my baby. And there's a lot of controversy and often criticism, especially in the Christian community, about miscarriages being delivered via DNC or D&E because they're also abortion techniques. But in reality, those are just surgical births, just like a C-section, and sometimes babies need to be born that way. And that's how my son needed to be born. So he was born via D&E, and I did not get to see him or hold him because I was under general anesthesia, and that was really difficult. And then there was the physical trauma on top of the added emotional trauma. It was all very difficult to deal with, and nobody around us seemed to know how to support us. People obviously wanted to, and they had wonderful intentions. But the things that people said when they thought they were being comforting were often torturous and just insult to injury, and they didn't know. And we didn't have the strength to tell them. Because I would love for the month of October to do a video every week to help others, perhaps give you support and come alongside you if you've dealt with a pregnancy loss or an infant loss, or to help those support you better. Hopefully by sharing my story and what we've been through, you all can understand a little bit more. And if you've been through it, you can know that I see you and I understand. And so that's it for today. Please share this with anyone it might be helpful with, and keep an eye out every Monday for the month of October while I share more about supporting people around you during pregnancy and infant loss. Please give this a thumbs up if you found it helpful or it spoke to you. and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of these